All right, week 3 of the paper in 6 weeks done. It was a better week than last week, which if you've seen the video, it's a low bar to jump. But now officially we are through halfway of the process. So this week the writing process has actually started. Yes, I'm writing a paper in 6 weeks, but that still involved kind of analyzing a bit of data and running some experiments and, kind of tightening everything up. But now basically all my experiments are ran. I have one more kind of rogue model where the effect sizes look a bit weird, so I will have to investigate that. But across the board, kind of my analysis is done, my results are more or less in, and now it's actually time for, the rubber to hit the road and get writing. Now, what I wanted to focus on during this video is kind of the approach I'm taking to writing, because I think a lot of people, and, mostly including myself too, we look at writing as, just you just start to write. But I think it has much more nuance to it. And while, just starting to type is a legit approach, I need the most efficient approach. 3 weeks to go, I need what I can get. So I spent some time during this week because I had some weird amounts of time, these 30 minutes to an hour blocks where you can't really get into the flow of working. So I just spent some time kind of tinkering and thinking around how I can kind of streamline my writing process. And I think I came up with a pretty good solution. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. So obviously every paper is going to involve editing, right? It's called a shitty first draft for a reason. You just have to get it out of your system and then you can start working from it. And this is all well and good, but I think a lot of people assume that kind of the shitty first draft have to be a fully typed out fluid text type of thing to be useful. And that's where I think I can get a lot of efficiency out of writing. I am a big outline guy. I live in nested bullet lists. If you've seen me at work, you know that it's always some multiple indentation, child's parents, everything all over the place. I thrive on that. And I think that using these in the early process of writing a manuscript can save me a lot of time. Now, if you ever written a paper or a thesis or just a bigger project before, you know that changing the flow of a written document is really difficult and time consuming, right? If you have to have multiple big paragraphs and move them around and make sure that they are still in the correct order and they connect to each other, it's such a pain. It takes so much time going over it over and over and over. And if I would have 3 to 6 months, I would probably still do that because, kind of writing out your thoughts long form can be a really helpful way to actually form those thoughts. I made a video about that. But given the time constraints now, I can't really afford to do these multiple full rewrite passes over my manuscript. So instead what I opted for is that I just have this monster bullet list, which is kind of a skeleton of a paper, right? In that outline, I just took all the entries from the AMJ research canvas, because these are the most important questions that we need to address in the paper, and it kind of follows the standard, kind of intro, theory, methods, results, discussion type of flow. I took all of those and I started filling it up with other bullet points, short sentences, 2 sentences max, to kind of hash out the story of the paper. I think kind of the story of the paper is a very underrated thing to look at upfront, because yes, of course, if you just start typing up everything, a story will emerge. But I think by thinking about kind of what is the story of your paper, right? What is the main question that you want to answer? What are you saying? Not your research question, but what is it that you're trying to convey with writing this paper? I think kind of hashing that out ahead of time is just so much more of an efficient strategy than kind of trying to edit a story into this big multi-thousand word document. So what I'm doing now, which is positively terrifying because I'm still not writing text that goes into document or the manuscript that we're gonna submit, is I'm just wrestling with this outline and trying to get all of the arguments and pieces of the story in place. Now, if everything goes according to plan, I'm still waiting for a bit of feedback from my supervisors on my theory section, whether they kind of buy my arguments, right? But if everything goes to plan, by the end of next week, I will take my theory and my methods section and actually write it out as, fluid text goes into the manuscript style. And then, that's going to be a big relief to kind of gauge the speed of which at which I can write this text, and kind of to see how, like, roughly, you know, in my mind I kind of gauge a 3-to-1 translation from like a bullet list into fluid text. If you just count words, so 800 words of a bullet point list usually turns to around like 2500 words for me in the way I make my outlines. But I need to benchmark this on the current paper too, right? So I can adjust my expectations or my outline in the writing process itself. That's the plan, to get theory, methods, and maybe some results done by end of next week, so that my supervisors can also, you know, give some feedback on it before they go on holiday. Otherwise, at this point, I'm just really looking forward to the experience. Oh, haha, my light died.